So in this segment, we're going to be discussing our Labour MP getting absolutely cooked over, the fact that they keep talking about the need for change, but their fiscal rules say otherwise, and their financial policies also say otherwise to an extent. So some good work from Ridge here.
It feels very clearly from what you're saying and also from what Keir Starmer is saying that your message is change. You want to change the country. Labour very, very good at pointing out all the ways that you think the country is changing. But then if you look at what the change is that you're actually saying, you're not saying you're going to, raise taxes other than like a couple of billion from VAT on private schools. You're not.
There's no major shift here, which is true. They're not going to raise taxes on the rich, which the Labour Party have confirmed multiple times, and that's something I'll be covering in a separate video.
Saying that you're going to borrow a lot more money in order to, fund the NHS. You're not saying that you're going to cut spending or raise spending. It feels like you're saying you're going to change the country, but actually, fiscally, you're just copying what the Conservatives are doing, aren't you?
And this is really important here because, from what I've seen, Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules are incredibly similar or the same as Jeremy Hunt's in terms of borrowing and things like that. Hence why Labour had to ditch some of their key pledges. And hence why they keep saying that we need to keep the two-child cap in, we can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. They could do it based on borrowing because that money still goes back into the economy. That's something Sam Cedar talked about when it comes to welfare spending. But more importantly, they could raise taxes in order to get that money. Go back to the old 50p tax rate, but they're choosing not to do it. That's a political choice.
I mean, I just reject that completely, honestly. After 14 years of chaos, after that mini budget where the Tories under Liz Truss crashed the economy in such a way that people are still seeing that in their mortgage payments. Stability,
I'm just going to jump in now.
Stability is pretty radical.
It's the most embarrassing tagline. Imagine Obama said that in 2008. Stability is change. After the the subprime mortgage scandal. No, he didn't say that. He promised change. That's what people want. This idea, stability is change. It's one of the most embarrassing statements I've ever seen from a political party. Stability is change, because we've been relatively stable since the mini budget crisis. You could argue it's been stagnant. It's been stagnant or stable over the last 14 years. That's something you could argue. I'll definitely argue stagnant. You could argue stable. So they had one or two major crises, let's be honest. But if you want to argue stability is change, it's been stable under the Tories. It's just not good, because stable isn't good enough. What you want is growth. What you want is redistribution. Those are the things you do want.
Radical for a government in this country to offer economic stability after what we've seen from the Tories over the last 14 years. So actually, I would challenge that. What we are offering is credible, it's deliverable, it's affordable. Whoever is the next government... Well, let me just finish. Whoever is the next government of the country is going to have a very difficult inheritance left to them by this government. That does constrain what any incoming Labour government could do. We're not going to make promises we can't keep, but the changes that we're promising, those 6 first steps, those are immediate changes, fully costed, and people will see the...
I mean, those 6 first steps are really just lame as hell. Set up border command, recruit 6,500 teachers. These pledges are lame as hell.
Difference in their ordinary lives. Yes,
if I can.
I mean, recruiting 6,500 teachers is not going to make that much a difference in the lives of most people. Let's be honest. Even most kids, it wouldn't affect it.
Come in. What are you proposing right now that is economically different from the Conservatives? Because it seems to me that what you're saying is stability. You're not going to be borrowing more money. You want to kind of match the kind of fiscal envelope, if you like. What are you proposing that is different to the Conservatives fiscally?
Well, we have set out that we will follow our own fiscal rules.
Which are very similar to Jeremy Hunt's, but okay.
And that we will be bound by those rules. We'll never take the cavalier approach to the economy that the Tories have done, which crashed...
You could stick Rachel Reeves here and it will sound exactly the same.
That's not an answer
with
to my
that
question.
budget. No, it is, and we will make immediate changes on taxation, on loopholes, on closing down non-doms, on dealing with windfall tax in a more extensive way than the Tories have done to raise enough money so that we can start taking those first steps.
These are good policies. Objectively, windfall taxes, taxing closing down loopholes and stuff, but these are short-term in terms of there's no long-term gain with those policies, because eventually you've closed every loophole and you've generated the money from that. You've done a windfall tax, which you can't do all the time. That money will run out. That's one of the problems. So it's very much extreme short-termism in terms of the money you will get from these and the allocation of these.
that we have laid out. Obviously, in the longer term, we would want to grow the economy so that we can get our public services back to where they need to be. But
they never really offer the how they're going to grow the economy. That's one of the key questions asked. How are you going to grow it?
as I said, the economic inheritance that this government will leave for whoever is the next government is going to be very difficult. But our
Clement Attlee says, sorry everyone, I can't do the NHS because the state of the economy is so bad, and that we're going to have to do austerity instead. That's what Clement Attlee said after World War I. Psych, he founded the NHS.
6 first steps are fully costed. They require different changes on taxation, different choices on taxation. We would make those choices so that we can have an NHS back on its feet, so that we can recruit more teachers.
Again, what's the timescale on this stuff? Given that, what's the economic growth you're going to get? How much of it are you going to get, and how sustainable is going to be? That's another question I'd want to ask, honestly.
Across schools in our country. So actually you will see a big difference, and there is a difference between the Tory plans and the Labour plans. I just reject this sort of lazy narrative, I have to say, that suggests that both of these sets of plans are the same thing. They are emphatically not. We are very different, and what we're offering is different.
Didn't hear a ton of difference there, I'll be honest. Did not hear it much. I think Ridge could have done a much better job here. But, this is Starmer pushing the stability is change nonsense.
We're absolutely right to focus in on the economy, because that's what everybody's talking about. I've just been knocking on doors just up the road from here and asking people what's the number one issue, and they tell me it's the cost of living crisis. I was with a couple this morning. They're coming off their fixed rate mortgage. They've had that for 5 years, and now they're going to have to pay £250 more each and every month because of the damage that's been done to the economy. That's why the Labour Party has said the number one mission is to focus on the economy, to grow the economy. And
again, how are you going to grow it?
First step towards that is to stabilise the economy. And,
right now it's fairly stable. I mean, we had a technical recession, a very shallow recession, and I think we've come out of it. But again, measuring the metrics we use for GDP growth and recessions and stuff is flawed anyways. But these are the metrics people want to use, whatever. It is stable, stagnant. What's the difference between stability and stagnation? I don't think there's a very big difference in terms of when you speak about the economy. And so if all they're pushing is stability, all I hear is stagnation, I'll be honest.
Stability now is change. It's strange to say that in 2024, but a stable economy has to be the first step of an incoming Labour government. And that is what we'll make an absolute priority if we're privileged enough to come in to serve.
Yeah, no, stability's changed. Like, people getting cooked, like cost of living spiraling. The bare minimum you're going to offer is stability. I don't know, dog. I can see this. If this is brought up in interviews, I think he's going to struggle a little bit, maybe a lot. But I don't think it'll be smoke the pack territory, but it's not going to be great, I'll be honest. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.